where we showcase amazing Australian women speakers so that you can get to see the huge amount of talent that is available. And so we can shift the stats from 30% women speakers to 50. And today I've got a brilliant guest, somebody I admire hugely, the amazing Julie Hyde. Da-na-na-na. So welcome, Julie.
Thanks, Jules. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's fantastic to have you here. So let's start off by talking about what topics that you'd like to talk about on stage and your why. Nice small question.
Yeah, just a small one to kick off with. So, look, my two most popular and I suppose to me most important topics. The first one is that you always have a choice, and that's very much about empowering audiences to make empowered choices to live in alignment with their values, in alignment with their priorities, in alignment with a life that they love, not one that they tolerate.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And it's very much about empowering people to understand that no matter what happens to them, we all have control over how we respond. Right. And we can be the victor or the victim. So that is something that I'm very passionate about because, of course, this all leads towards our legacy because we create our legacy every single day through our actions and non-actions, choices and non-choices. So that's one that I absolutely love. And the second one is about busy. So I'm very passionate about...
Don't talk to me about busy.
I'm very passionate about anti-busy.
Word.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've become very ingrained in this busy culture in the Western world. And what I want to show people is that if we can break away from busy, understand the types of busy that we do. So I've developed 8 different types of busy styles that we can fall into. But empower people with the self-awareness to understand the trigger and then to move forward and to be productive, but also, again, to live in alignment with their priorities and their values. So
I love both of those topics. Both are like really inspiring, and I can imagine you get booked a lot. But why do you like to talk about those topics? What's your why?
My biggest why is I believe that this is all about self-leadership.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that if we have more self-leaders in this world, so more people who take responsibility and accountability for their actions, that this world will be a better place.
Right.
So that's what drives me to get out of bed every morning and do the work that I do.
Okay, so why do you care about that?
I think that the world, particularly now, it's really at a crossroads. Like there's a lot of darkness in the world, but there's so much light in the world. And I think post-COVID in particular, there's a lot of angry people who are disappointed, people who just feel like they can take out their anger or disappointment or resentment out on other people.
Yeah.
I think if we can turn that around, I think that there'll be more people contributing rather than taking. And just rather than focusing on self, empowering others. And I think that it's really important for our future generations that are coming through for them to see really strong role models in the world.
I couldn't agree with you more. And a great stat that I love to share at my events is that it comes from Miriam Gonzalez Duartes in the UK, who started Inspiring Girls and said that girls 11 to 16 cannot see women doing the roles that they want to have when they get older. So part of my drive is we need to get up and make ourselves more visible, because
Absolutely.
if you take the focus off yourself and again, as you say, think about the legacy that you're leaving and remove that sort of ego from it, then actually it's really important that we get out there. It's really important that we speak about things like that.
Absolutely, 100%. And of course, I speak generally, but I would love for more women to step forward and to step up and shine in the way that they want to.
Yeah.
And
I love that Yeah, and I love that you were also talking about the amount of darkness and light that's in the world, and I absolutely agree, which comes back to your keynote about making decisions, because it is a conscious decision which way you want to go, whether you want to wallow in the misery and the doom and gloom, or whether you can see that there are loads of opportunities being thrown out of this as well.
Yes, for
Yeah,
sure.
amazing. Okay, so what sort of audiences do you like talking to, Julie? Who are you ideally speaking to when you're doing these talks?
Often, because of my background, I am speaking to a lot of finance audiences. So, like banks, insurance,
Okay.
accounting, financial planners, those types of audiences. But I love to speak to audiences who are curious, who really want to be a better version of themselves. So that could be a really broad range, because I've worked across a broad range of industries too, like
Well,
in
tell
terms
us
of
a little bit about your background. I know
yeah,
that if anybody's watching this on LinkedIn, they can go to your profile, but they might be watching it on YouTube. So let's talk a little bit about your background and why it's obvious that you do financial. Other than, I would have to say, when you talk about not being fulfilled in a job or wanting a purpose, I come across a lot of people in finance who struggle with that.
absolutely. And so do I, and then also in legal industry
Right.
as
Yeah,
well,
where
predominantly.
it's very constrained and
Very constrained.
yeah,
You fit within the four
or
walls.
you don't fit, full stop.
That's right. So in saying that, I spent 21 years in finance in the corporate
Right.
industry. So that's basically where I grew up. But I had a
Okay.
fantastic career. I learned so much about leadership from the leaders who I worked for, through the incredible training that I was provided, and also through leading my own teams, big and
And through role
small.
models, no doubt.
Absolutely. So when you're working with a lot of leaders, you really understand what's great leadership, what's not. And
Yeah.
I think you can pick and choose things that you want to emulate, and things you just want to stay away from. So that was a really great and fantastic grounding for me. And I think since I've always been a student of leadership, and I did step out of the corporate world because our values were not aligned anymore. So I
Yeah.
think the further I got up within the industry, the more I thought I just can't see a place for me to in terms of where I can shine. So I just decided I'll just start my own business,
Right.
um, and did that 15 years ago. So
Okay.
I've been a 15-year entrepreneur, and since then I've been working with entrepreneurs, with corporates, with executives, and I have helped them, increase their sales by 200%, grow lagging leaders to be real game changers, and to also triple the size of businesses as
Yeah.
well. So it's been an incredible journey so far.
Wow. Okay. So, what sort of size audience do you like working with? If there's someone who's watching that has, a massive corporate, or whether they, have you got a sweet spot of a size of audience?
Not really, to be honest.
Okay.
The size doesn't phase me. And as I say, if there is a group of people, small or large, who really want to learn,
Yeah.
I'm their person.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about your background. What led you into speaking as a way of getting your message out there?
That was a really interesting journey, because growing up in corporate in the time that I did,
Yeah,
you were sort of we experienced the tall poppy syndrome. So you didn't necessarily speak up and speak out,
yeah,
and speak about yourself. But when I started my own business and I was working with some really great mentors, they were saying, you really need to share your your message, and you need
right.
to do that by speaking. So I've got, I did speaker courses and that sort of thing, but it was more about the philosophy that I can touch many
Yes,
rather than just touching a few in terms of mentoring. And I felt like through writing the books as well, Busy and You Always Have a Choice, that people wanted to hear more and
Right.
get more
Yeah.
in-depth messages about the key learnings from the books as well.
Yeah, and if you look at your audience, I imagine that it's so refreshing for them not to be talking numbers, but to be talking about things that are, you know, purposeful, that are more emotional, that are more internal.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
think I love that juxtaposition of what you talk about and what
Mm.
maybe their daytime role is.
Yes. So it's not the technical skills that they get all the time. So I'm actually
Yeah,
doing a workshop for a company tomorrow, and that's very much about the self-development, the self-growth tools that they're going to be learning.
yeah, fantastic. Okay,
Mm.
so I'm going to pop in a little question that I didn't tell you about. Sorry, I need to rub it in. Around, I'm interested to know how, because there's a lot of women who want to speak on stages, but how do you get your gigs? How did you start building a bit of profile and getting, you know, asked to speak? Have you been signed up with the bureau? Have you gone and reached out yourself? How have you done it?
Initially, I reached out myself, so I would pitch to various organisations,
Okay.
um, uh, but also people referred me in. So a lot of connections would say, "Hey, you know, you need to speak to Julie about this," which is awesome because you're pretty much already sold
Yeah,
in.
yeah, love it when you get that third party endorsement.
Yeah, but now also, you know, signing up with the Australian Women Speakers has been great,
Yay.
and yay, yeah. So I think the more visible you can be, the better, but also to share where you've spoken, what you talk about, and to let people know that you are available to do these things.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, you know, to speak to their audiences, to empower their teams, whatever that looks like for you. I think it's important to just let people know about it. And it can feel really awkward at the start when you
it
start
can.
doing that. But you just really need to be focusing on the value that you can provide rather
Yeah,
than you putting yourself out there.
that's right. I think that's right. And as you say, if you want to speak to get to lots of people, then pushing yourself out there to say, let me help the people in your organization is just giving it a slightly different spin so it doesn't feel quite so yucky.
That's right. And I think if you can really talk to the problem that you're solving so that you're easily identifiable,
Yeah, I think that's nice.
yeah, to provide the
Okay,
service.
so what are two key takeaways that people would walk away from at your either or both of your keynotes?
Okay. I think the biggest one is about the empowered choices to live a life in alignment with your values and your priorities. I see far too many people living a life that they tolerate, staying in a career that they hate, that's
Yes, just
um,
for the stability.
just for the stability and where it's affecting their mental health and their happiness. It's just, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's life zapping. And also in terms of the resilience, in that no matter what happens to you, you've got the choice in how you can respond. And even if it's taking the smallest possible steps or big leaps, we can all move through that darkness towards the light, even if it's incredibly faint. I suppose so. That's one in terms of the choices, which I'm really
yeah.
passionate about.
And
The
do you
second,
give them skills or techniques to kind of make that change
absolutely.
happen? Great.
Yes. So I share various models in order to help them, give them a really easy reference
Yeah,
to, you know, if they're in a situation, it's like, okay, so what would I do here? Would I be above the line or below the line? Or how can I reframe my mindset to look at the positive here?
yeah,
Yeah. So lots, it's very, very practical. All of my keynotes are very practical. So they walk away with actions that they can implement immediately.
yeah, perfect.
And the second thing is very much about busy. And I give them lots and lots and lots of practical ideas in terms of how they can turn busy into productive, how they can turn busy into living a life that they love, rather than just getting caught in this vortex
Yeah,
of
the
just,
hamster wheel.
yeah, which we can really easily get stuck into. And
So easily. Yeah.
yeah, to help them understand that busy is a habit. It's and it's a
I think I
mindset.
probably need to go and see that keynote actually, Julie.
I love it.
Okay, now I know that you've spoken a lot of times. Are there any sort of memorable talks that you've done that you can share with us, either with something that happened or a particularly interesting audience? Yeah.
There is. Yes, there is. So I did a national gig with an insurance company.
Okay.
And so I went up the East Coast and over to Perth and Adelaide. And the topic was busy. So I'd just written the book and spoke to people about busy. And one lady came up to me and said, your keynote has really struck a chord with me.
Right.
Because just the other day, my daughter came up to me and said, I'm really sick of being a technology orphan. And she was,
Oh,
yeah.
ouch.
And I was like, yeah, ouch.
Yeah.
And she was talking to me like at first, she thought it was quite funny that her daughter's had the language to
Yes.
share that message with her. But it really opened her eyes in terms of, okay, I can see why my daughter is saying this now, because when I get home, I might be home, but I'm still at work. I'm mentally at work. I'm not present. I'm attached to technology. And she's sitting there looking at her screen or watching TV, and I'm
Yeah.
not really being the parent that I want to be for her, the mother I want to be for her. I share that story often because it's just it's a simple, but it's a real
Oh, it's
emotional.
profound. It would strike at the heart of almost every parent, I would imagine, who's working.
Absolutely. Like, I think that would be one of the worst things a child could tell you, just
Yeah.
out of the blue. I'm
Yeah.
sick of being a technology orphan. So, but lots of women in particular have come up to me after the busy talk and said, look, I really need to start prioritizing myself. I feel really guilty about it. I need to let that go. And it's just really heartwarming that the message gets through, probably in another way. So they
Yeah.
may have heard the message, but it's just a different slant
Well,
on.
because every time anyone suggests those things, you're kind of applying it to your own life. And so you'd have, the whole audience all thinking slightly differently about the same topic. And what about when you do the choices talk? Because I love the choices talk.
Yeah, the choices talk. I actually delivered that a couple of weeks ago, and one of the ladies came up to me. She read my book, and she said, "Oh, you have been with me. I have left a really bad relationship. I've been
Oh,
helping my child with some of their mental health issues, and just the techniques in your book have really helped me to get through this." We talk about
great.
above the line in that talk, and above the line, and with a mindset that is really empowering for her,
Yeah.
reminding her also that she needs to look after herself while she's going through such a traumatic time. So just just that type of feedback is just so empowering. And it just reminds you, okay, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, an awful lot of women that want to speak. There's a lot of women who are speaking, but there's an awful lot who want to speak. And I think one of the beautiful things about women is that they do try and nurture and help others. And so getting up on a stage kind of to me is a natural extension, but it's not something that you can just get up and do most of the time. You need a lot of practice. So how did you get that practice in? What sort of talks did you do in the early days to get yourself to a stage where it was okay to get up in front of 300 people and talk?
Yeah, I think the first thing that really helped me when I started my business was I joined a networking group where you have to get up and talk about yourself
Oh, okay.
constantly, and then you do a presentation about your business. So that was the first thing. But
Okay.
when I was in corporate and I was put into a leadership role where I had to
Manage a team.
manage the team and inspire the team and, run various leadership days, I used to practice in the mirror. I know that sounds.
No, I'm not laughing because I think we all have to. And I say to people, not only do you need to practice to see how you look, but you've got to time yourself. Because
Yes.
if someone asks you to do a half-hour talk, and you've probably been at those events, I certainly have, where people speak over, and either somebody else is going to have a shorter speech afterwards, or the organisers kind of sitting on the side going, hurry it up. And it's because you just have no idea how long your speech is going to go for.
No, exactly. Because you can get really in the moment.
Absolutely.
Or you can run really short to time.
Yeah,
It can be over in like 10 minutes. Yeah. So I find practicing in the mirror, and you said it as well, I always practice for my keynotes, and I do always time myself because, as you say, they've got pretty strict timelines in general, so you can't talk however
if you
long
look
you
at a
want
run
to.
sheet for an event, and I've emceed a few events, there's like talk for 3 minutes here. That
Yeah.
person's going to talk for 17. That one's going to talk, and and it stuffs up the whole thing if people go over or
Absolutely.
under.
Yeah. I also love looking at other speakers to see how they present themselves, like the techniques that they use. And of course, I highly recommend doing speaker training as well.
Yeah.
If you're new into it.
Have you got any favorite speakers that you've seen and been really impressed with?
Gosh, there's so many.
This in there.
A really high profile woman who I love seeing speak is Michelle Obama. Now she's really high profile.
Yes. Gosh,
but I love her authenticity.
Yes.
And she's so engaging. I love everything about her.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm starting to fall a little bit in love with Kamala Harris now, after yesterday's speech, because I thought she was just such a fabulous contrast to Donald Trump.
Absolutely. Just the dignity and the self-awareness.
I know.
As opposed to.
And carrying herself so well when you're hearing a whole lot of stuff that is rubbish. And is very deeply insulting.
Yeah.
And yet she doesn't react. I just thought it was brilliant. So,
yes.
Okay. Now, if somebody watching this loves you, and I'm sure anybody who is watching it will, how can they find you and book you outside of your fabulous profile in Women Speakers?
And the easiest way would be via my website, which is juliehyde.com.au.
Okay.
And I've got my keynotes listed there, my most popular ones. But
great. Okay.
Yeah, people will approach and say, hey, can you talk on this or can you talk on that?
Well, I was going to actually, that's a really good point. Do you get many gigs off your own website? So do you have a lot, right? Interesting. Yes. Because there'd be a lot of women, I would imagine, that kind of sign themselves up somewhere but don't really dedicate some time or some space on their website to their talks, and this is downloadable, and let me tell you a little bit more about what I speak about. So
yeah, definitely.
No, I think that's great. Well, Julie, thank you so much. Gee, I love what you talk about. I've loved you from the moment that I've met you. I'm so delighted to share you on my profile anyway. And I'm just very appreciative that you agreed to do it. So thank you. And also for being so supportive and jumping in to women speakers really early on. So I do appreciate it. For anyone else that's watching, if you need a speaker, then please go to womenspeakers.com.au. You don't have to pay a commission. You can search by topic and location. You can contact the speaker directly and organise for them to come and talk for you. You're also very welcome to post a request into the LinkedIn Australian Women Speakers group or the Facebook group, depending on what platform is your favourite. But we have well over 1,000 women speakers in each, both wanting any opportunity to speak. So you'll be able, you can do one post and have about 15, 20 responses. And if you are a speaker and you want to be found, then please go and sign up to the Women Speakers directory as well. And my theory is that if we gather together and make ourselves easier to find, we will get more gigs, and that we kind of back each other. So if you do a talk and speak to the organizer and say, do you need more speakers, that you're suggesting or referring other women to them, just until we get that equality on stage. So thank you so much, Julie. And I look forward to sharing this now. Well, hopefully there'll be some people watching it. So sharing it. And I'm back every Thursday at 10 a.m. showcasing another